Hello students. So let's start with paper 2, history optional, and we are going to start with modern India, Indian national movement, India after independence, and world history. So actually, paper 2 of history optional, it includes four important segments, four big segments. First one is modern India, several topics of modern India, followed by Indian national movement, Indian national movement, or India's struggle for independence. Indian national movement or India's struggle for independence. Then another section, India after independence. India after independence or India since independence, and history of modern world. So right now we are analyzing syllabus of only paper 2, not paper 1. So because we are going to start with paper 2, so I'm going to discuss with you people about the syllabus. And for the first, before we discuss any topic, we have to analyze and we have to organize our syllabus, because the syllabus of history seems to be quite fragmented or dispersed. So we have to accumulate, we have to organize syllabus of paper 1 as well as paper 2, but right now we are trying to organize syllabus of paper 2 because we are going to start its batch with paper 2 as well. So modern India and Indian national movement, India after independence, and history of modern world. And let's analyze syllabus of first two section, modern India and Indian national movement. While syllabus of this paper is highly scattered, so we have to organize, and we are going to divide modern India and Indian national movement into three distinct units. It means we are trying to organize our scattered syllabus. So syllabus provided to you by the Union Public Service Commission appears to be highly fragmented and scattered. So we have to organize our syllabus for the first, and modern India and Indian national movement, followed by India after independence and history of modern world. So let's divide modern India and Indian national movement. Modern India and Indian national movement into three distinct units. Unit 1, Unit 2, and Unit 3. Unit 1, Unit 2, and Unit 3. Unit 1 of modern India and Indian national movement, which includes the European penetration. Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3. So let's discuss Unit 1 for the first. So Unit 1 includes what we have to study under this Unit 1: European penetration into India, or beginning of the European commerce. So note down all these important units, and our subsequent classes would be based on these units and organization of this syllabus. So European penetration into India or beginning of the European commerce, and the British the British conquest of Bengal and rest of India. The British conquest of Bengal and rest of India, like Battle of Plassey and Buxar 1757 and 1764. Battle of Plassey and Battle of Buxar. Followed and in between these two battles, between 1757 and 1764, another battle of far-reaching consequences was fought between the Maratha powers led by Sadashiv Rao Bhau, a Maratha commander, and the Afghan ruler Ahmad Shah Abdali on the battlefield of Panipat, which is in Haryana, in the year 1761, called Third Battle of Panipat. And as a result of Third Battle of Panipat, Marathas were defeated, and it was a very serious defeat of the Marathas, which created a political vacuum, a political gap in the politics of Maharashtra or peninsular India, and that gap was very well utilized or fulfilled by the British East India Company to strengthen its power in peninsular India. So Battle of Plassey and Battle of Buxar. In between these two battles, there was another battle fought between Marathas and Ahmad Shah Abdali, the Afghan ruler. Third, Battle of Panipat. And the British ascendancy in Carnatic. The British ascendancy in Tamil Nadu. Carnatic means not Karnataka state. Carnatic, British India, Carnatic means Tamil Nadu. Okay, so British ascendancy in Carnatic and Carnatic Wars. Okay, then Anglo Mysore Wars. Anglo-Mysore Wars from 1767 till 1799. 1767 till 1799, the British East India Company fought 4 battles against the Mysorean Riyasat led by Hyder Ali and his son and subsequent Sultan Tipu Sultan. Tipu Sultan. Hyder Ali and Tipu Sultan, they fought four Anglo-Mysore Wars, and eventually, as a result of fourth Anglo-Mysore War, Tipu Sultan was defeated and killed while fighting at the gateway of his capital city Srirangapatnam, and Mysore fell into the clutches of the British East India Company, Mysore, became an integral part of the British India. And similarly, the British East India Company fought three wars against the Maratha nobles called Anglo-Maratha Wars. Anglo-Maratha Wars from 1775 till 1818, and Anglo-Mysore Wars from 1767 till 1799. Anglo-Maratha Wars. And eventually, in the year 1818, all the Maratha nobles and kingdoms were uprooted and eliminated, and they became an integral part of the British India territory, or they had to sign subsidiary alliance mechanism, a mechanism developed by the Britishers in India. Subsidiary alliance, and possibly you people are also aware of doctrine of lapse policy of Lord Dalhousie, the Viceroy or the Governor General of the British India. So Anglo-Mysore Wars, Anglo-Maratha Wars, and Anglo-Sikh Wars from 1845, 1846 till 1848. The British East India Company fought two wars against the Sikh kingdom founded or established by Maharaja Ranjit Singh. And eventually in 1848, Sikh kingdom became a part and parcel of the British India territory. So slowly and gradually, within a short span of 100 years, from 1757, the Battle of Plassey, till 1857, the Great Revolt. We have taken two landmark years, 1757, Battle of Plassey, and 1857, when the Great Revolt broke out against the Britishers. So within just a short span of 100 years, the British East India Company came to capture around 63% territory of India. 63% territory of India. So 63% territory of India came to be called as the British India. British India. And remaining one-third territory of India was kept under the control of Raja Rajwadas and Nawabs, called Indian princely states, subordinates of the Britishers, Raja Rajwadas and Nawabs. So several Raja Rajwadas and Nawabs, they continued their rule. They continued their rule by the grace of the Britishers, and they became the subordinate powers, not the absolute power, but subordinate powers, and controlled by the British Parliament and the British Crown. Okay, so Unit 1 of modern India and Indian national movement includes the British penetration into India, the European penetration into India, beginning of the European commerce, and the British ascendancy in Bengal, British dominance in Bengal, and gradually remaining part of our country. Unit 1. Okay. And Unit 2. Unit 2, it includes from our syllabus, several topics of our syllabus. This Unit 2 includes apparatus and administrative machinery. apparatus and administrative, like this, administrative system, apparatus and administrative system of the British, apparatus and administrative system of the British, and some reforms introduced by the British. So administrative apparatus of the British Raj, administrative apparatus of the British Raj, and reforms introduced by the British. So now let's divide this unit 2 into two subunits. Then subunit 1 and subunit 2. Unit 2, subunit 1 and subunit 2. So unit 2, subunit 1, this includes, or we are going to keep under this subunit several topics of our syllabus, scattered syllabus in fact, under this subunit 1, like regulating and charter acts, regulating and charter acts, like regulating act of 1773, Pitt's India Act 1784, then charter acts of 1813 and 1833, charter acts of 1813 and 1833. So we have to discuss about regulating act of 1773, then Pitt's India Act 1784, and two important charter acts, not all the charter acts, only two important charter acts of 1813 and 1833. Charter acts of 1813 and 1833, and constitutional development of India. Constitutional development of India, which includes Government of India Acts and Indian Councils Act. Government of India Acts and Indian Councils Act, like Government of India Act 1858, Indian Councils Act 1861, Indian Councils Act 1892, Indian Councils Act 1909, which is also known as Morley-Minto reforms, and Indian Morley-Minto reforms, then Government of India Act 1919 and the Government of India Act 1935. Okay, so Government of India Acts, three Government of India Acts passed by the British Parliament. Government of India Act 1858, Government of India Act 1919, and Government of India Act 1935, and Councils Act 1861, 1892, and 1909. So three Government of India Acts and three Indian Councils Act. We have to discuss under this head, constitutional development of India, followed by transfer of power. transfer of power from the British, transfer of power from the British into the hands of the Indians from 1940 till 1947. 1940 till 1947, transfer of power. When the Britishers, they came to realize that it would not be possible for the British to continue their rule here in India, and also that the Indians were determined to achieve their independence. So around 1940, the British came to clearly realize that Indians were in no mood to retreat back and they would achieve their independence. So the Britishers, they started transferring the power from the British into the hands of the Indians, called transfer of power. And this includes August Offer, Cripps Mission, Wavell Plan, and Cabinet Mission Plan. August Offer, Cripps Mission, Wavell Plan, and Cabinet Mission Plan. Transfer of power, regulating and charter acts, then constitutional development of India, transfer of power, and the British policy of imperialism and colonialism. The British policy of imperialism and colonialism. It means the British policy of territorial conquest. The British policy of territorial conquest in India, and colonialism means a system of exploitation of India by the British. Imperialism means a system of territorial conquest, conquering several areas of our country. And once India was reduced to the status of a colony of the British, so the Britishers tended to develop various mechanisms to exploit. So they started sucking the blood of the Indians. They became total parasite of the Indians, and they started draining the wealth of our country. They started denuding, or they started draining the wealth of India to England. It's called imperialism and colonialism. The British policies of imperialism and colonialism, then their land, their various land revenue policy, Lagan Bandobast or land revenue policy, then the British industrial policy or handicraft policy of the British, land revenue policy of the British, handicraft policy of the British. So unit 2 subunit 1, unit 2 subunit 1, it includes several policies, various policies adopted and implemented by the British in India, like also about their policy towards the riyasats. Okay, Indian policy towards Indian princely states, Indian princely states. Okay, and also their famine, akal, severe famine, severe and acute food shortage, akal, famine policy, policy towards the riyasats, famine policy. So under this subunit 1 of unit 2, we have to mainly discuss about the British policies, mechanism and the policies to exploit India, to exploit Indians to the maximum. to the maximum, upper limit, maximum limit. Okay, so Indian princely states and famine policy, and subunit 2, this unit, subunit 2, which includes reforms and other steps. So we are just trying to organize our syllabus, nothing more than that. We are right now, we are trying to organize and trying to systematize our syllabus, which seems to be very scattered, but we have to organize, we have to act smartly, we have to act smartly, and we have to organize our syllabus very fast. So reforms and other steps, like reforms of reforms of Warren Hastings, reforms of Warren Hastings, Lord Cornwallis, who is very often regarded as father of Indian civil services, father of Indian civil services and modern judiciary. So reforms introduced by Warren Hastings, Lord Cornwallis, Wellesley and Wellesley, yeah, ऐसे मत लिखिए ना, Cornwallis, then okay, और क्या ले सकते हैं हम लोग इसमें, reforms of Warren Hastings, Lord Cornwallis, yes, of course, William Bentinck, William Bentinck. Then some more governor generals or viceroy who tended to introduce reforms, like reforms of Lord Canning, reforms introduced by Lord Canning. So reforms introduced by the British governors and the governor generals. Reforms like postal reforms, telegraph reforms, army reforms, several other reforms. And there are other systems of exploitation like subsidiary alliance and doctrine of lapse. Subsidiary alliance and doctrine of lapse policy. So subsidiary alliance, and who is known for subsidiary alliance? Lord Wellesley, and Lord Dalhousie is known for doctrine of lapse policy. Okay, so subunit 2 of unit 2. So unit 1, which includes European penetration into India or beginning of European commerce, the British conquest of Bengal and rest of India, then Battle of Plassey, Battle of Buxar, Third Battle of Panipat, 1761, Battle of Plassey, 1757, and Buxar, 1764. Then the British ascendancy in the politics of peninsular India called Carnatic, British ascendancy in Carnatic, then Anglo-Mysore Wars and annexation of Mysore, Anglo-Mysore Wars and annexation of Mysore, then Anglo-Maratha Wars and Anglo-Sikh Wars, Anglo-Maratha and Anglo-Sikh Wars. Okay, and Unit 1 of Modern India and Indian National Movement, Unit 1. Unit 2 includes apparatus and administrative system of the British and reforms introduced by the British. And for the convenience of our study, we have divided Unit 2 further into Subunit 1 and Subunit 2. And Subunit 1 includes Regulating and Charter Acts, Regulating Act of 1773 and Pitt's India Act 1784, then Charter Acts of 1833 and 1813, and then the Constitutional Development of India like Government of India Acts and Indian Councils Act, and then transfer of power from the British into the hands of the Indians like Augustofer, Cripps Mission, Wavell Plan, and Cabinet Mission Plan. And the British policy of territorial conquest and system of exploitation, then the British Lagan Bandobast or land revenue policy, handicraft policy of the British, policy towards Indian princely states, and famine policy. And then their reforms and other systems of exploitation like reforms introduced by Warren Hastings and Cornwallis being the Governor Generals of Bengal, then William Bentinck, another Governor General of Bengal, and reforms of Lord Canning, right? Lord Ripon instead of Canning. So make a correction there. Lord Ripon, not Canning. Reforms of Lord Ripon. And then subsidiary alliance system of Wellesley and doctrine of lapse policy of Lord Dalhousie. So unit 2. Okay. So unit 2 and unit 3. Okay. Unit 3, it includes from our syllabus of paper 2, unit 3 includes several important topics like Indian responses against the British rule. Indian responses against the British rule. So like revolts and rebellions, and this includes civil uprisings or civil revolt, tribal uprising. When the Indians were fed up of the British rule, they raised the standard of revolt, they raised the banner of revolt. So civil revolts fostered by the civilians, tribals were also engaged in organizing several revolts against the British rule. Tribal revolts, civil revolts, not to forget about peasant revolts, and eventually the great revolt of 1857, peasant revolts and the great revolt of 1857. Then socio-religious reform movement. Socio-religious reform movement like reforms introduced by Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Pandit Ishwar Chand Vidyasagar, reforms introduced by Dayanand Saraswati, great philosopher and reformer Swami Vivekanand, Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, Nauroji Fardonji among the Parsis. Dada Bhai Nauroji was another influential reformer. So socio-religious reform movements and lower caste movements. Lower castes also launched several movements to improve their social economic and political condition like Jyotiba Phule, Savitri Bai Phule, Narayan Guru, Baba Saheb Bhimrao Ambedkar, Justice Party, and other movements fostered or organized by the members of lower caste and those who belong to untouchable castes. So lower caste movements and temple temple entry movement, lower caste movements and temple entry movement, because members of lower castes and so-called untouchables, they were not allowed to take entry. They were not allowed to take entry into the temples even during 18th and 19th century India. So they launched several temple entry movements. So Indian responses against the British rule and also to reform themselves. So socio-religious reforms and lower caste movements and temple entry movements, and eventually Indians launched their freedom struggle or India's struggle against the British Raj and Indians' quest to achieve independence from the colonial rule, mainly from 1885 till 1947. 1885 till 1947, Indian National Movement. So यूनिट 3 एज पर आवर सिलेबस, तो हम लोग सिलेबस को ऑर्गेनाइज कर रहे हैं क्योंकि सिलेबस स्कैटर्ड फैला रखा है यूपीएससी ने, तो हम उसको ठीक कर रहे हैं, सिस्टमैटिक कर रहे हैं फॉर द कन्वीनियंस ऑफ आवर सिस्टमैटिक स्टडी. We have to study, we have to act smartly, scientifically and systematically. Okay, so that's why we are trying to analyze and trying to systematize our syllabus, our scattered syllabus. And Indian national movement, then several trends of Indian national movement from 1885 till 1947, like moderate, extremist and Gandhian phase of Indian national movement, moderate, extremist and Gandhian phase of Indian national movement, moderate phase or first phase from 1885 till 1900, 04 or 05, then extremist phase from 1905 till 1916 and Gandhian phase from 1916 till 1947. So three phases of Indian national movement. Then the Swadeshi movement of 1905, Swadeshi movement of 1905 and rise of revolutionary nationalism. Revolutionaries, Krantikari, revolutionary nationalism, and its second phase from 1924 till 1934. Second phase of revolutionary nationalism led by Bhagat Singh, Sukhdev, Rajguru, Chandrasekhar Azad, Surya Sen, Sachidnath Sanyal and several other revolutionary nationalists. So Swadeshi movement and rise of revolutionary nationalism. Then politics of World War First, 1914 till 1918. Politics of World War First, which includes the Gadar movement, Gadar movement and Home Rule League. Home Rule League movement, Gadar movement and Home Rule League movement, and rise of left or impact of socialism and communism. Rise of left or impact of socialism and communism in the politics of India, Indian national movement. Okay, so rise of left, and also we have to talk about communal problems in the British India and British India, communal problems, communal rights, communal violences, communal problems in the British India. Okay, so we have to talk about all these topics. So, and to cover up these topics, it takes not more than 2 months, 2.5, and including topics of India after independence and world history. So, Unit 1, Unit 2, and Unit 3. Unit 1, Unit 2, and Unit 3. These units, we have to discuss these units within the given time frame of 1 month, 1.5, 1 month and a half. Okay, it means 45. We are left with 40 to 45 lectures to cover up these topics, and 45 lectures are more than enough, more than sufficient to cover up all these units or topics of paper 2. Okay, so paper 2, unit 1, the British conquest of India. Paper 2, unit 2, apparatus and administrative system of the British, dividing into two subunits, subunit 1, subunit 2. Then unit 3, Indian responses against the British rule, civil, tribal and peasant uprisings and the Great Revolt of 1857, then socio-religious reform movements, lower caste movements and temple entry movements, and eventually Indian national movement from 1885 till 1947. So this is all about organization of our syllabus of paper 2, one part, more two parts, modern India and Indian national movement. So we are going to start with modern India and Indian national movement, followed by several topics of India after independence and history of modern world. So I would be discussing about the analysis of syllabus of India after independence, which is India after independence is a very brief section, and it takes not more than 7 or 8 lectures to cover up India after independence. While to discuss important topics of world history, it will take 15 or 16 lectures. To 20 or 22 lectures for India after independence and history of modern world. Okay, and 42 to 45 lectures for modern India and Indian national movement. So together paper 2, it takes around 2 months or 2 months 10 days. So likely to चूंकि online classes, history optional online classes ये हम लोगों ने शुरुआत किया है, तो एग्जैक्टली बहुत सटीक क्लासेस, नंबर ऑफ क्लासेस बता पाना मुमकिन नहीं है, भी पॉसिबल नहीं है, लेकिन फिर भी हम लोग कोशिश करेंगे कि दिसंबर तक, ज्यादा से ज्यादा दिसंबर तक ये कंप्लीट कर लिया जाए with the help of class discussion, dictation, PDF of some notes, some printed material, some handwritten material, answer writing session is another very important part of our preparation. Okay, so to start with modern India, paper 2, stay first topic, and this topic is actually not the part of your syllabus, but still we have to discuss. We have to discuss. So some topics are not mentioned in your syllabus, but still we have to cover up, we have to discuss those topics. And sometimes some topics are mentioned in the syllabus, but UPSC would not ask question from those topics. So we are not going to cover up 100% of our syllabus. Some topics are idle. So we are not going to discuss idle topics or very less important topics. Rather, I would like to provide you PDF of those notes. Okay, notes of those topics. So right, first topic, very first topic, debates over 18th century India. Debates over 18th century India. So for the first, we have to analyze socio-economic, cultural and political condition of India in the 18th century. 18th century, because 18th century is very often considered to be a century of transition, a century of transition between medieval age and modern age. So, and to get medieval and modern age separated, we have taken another segment called pre-modern age. Pre-modern age. So, there is another age between medieval age and modern age called pre-modern age. And pre-modern age means 18th century India. 18th century India. 18th century India में मिडिल एज खत्म हो रहा था और मॉडर्न एज की शुरुआत हो रही थी. So 18th century was a century of transition between modern India and medieval India. So there is a debate over 18th century India. And what's that debate? Change versus continuity. Change versus continuity and dark age versus prosperity. Change versus continuity and dark age versus prosperity. Okay, so change, continuity and change and dark age as well as age of prosperity. So 18th century India is a remarkable century because this century had witnessed continuity and changes and dark age as well as prosperity. And also 18th century India had witnessed downfall of the Mughal Empire. Downfall of the Mughal Empire. And once the Mughal Empire was a very powerful empire, but during 18th century, in the beginning decades of 18th century India, the Mughal Empire started breaking down. The Mughal Empire started declining rapidly, and rapid decline of the Mughal Empire caused origin and development of provincial states. Origin and development of smaller states or provincial states. So, debate, we are going to discuss 18th century India, socio-economic, cultural and political condition of 18th century India. So, right, first paragraph. The breakup of the Mughal state The breakup of the Mughal state was followed by establishment of the breakup of the Mughal state was followed by the establishment of large number of autonomous or semi independent and independent states, semi independent and independent states. So it took not more than 30 or 40 years for the Mughal Empire to decline rapidly. When Aurangzeb Alamgir died in the year 1707. Aurangzeb Alamgir died in the year 1707. He was the last powerful, not last, but last powerful Mughal emperor. Last powerful Mughal emperor. And when he passed away in 1707, Aurangzeb, he was succeeded by three sons. He was succeeded by three sons, Muazzam, Ajam, and Kambaksh. And they fought a war of succession. गद्दी को लेकर के लड़ाई हो गई. They fought a war of succession, Muazzam, Ajam, and Kambaksh. Three sons of Aurangzeb. They fought a war of succession. They fought a war for the sake of throne. And Muazzam emerged victorious. In that war of succession, Muazzam emerged victorious and assumed the royal authority under the title of Bahadur Shah. Bahadur Shah first. And Muazzam, when he became the emperor, holding the title of Bahadur Shah first, though he was not so Bahadur, he was not so brave, but still he held the title of Bahadur Shah first. ये सब सुनते रहिएगा, भूल जाइएगा सुन के. मेन बात याद रखिएगा, पॉलिटिकल फ्रेगमेंटेशन. याद क्या रखना है? डिक्लाइन ऑफ द मुगल अथॉरिटी. एक लाइन में याद रखना है, डिक्लाइन ऑफ द मुगल अथॉरिटी. कहानी में सुना दे रहा हूं ताकि बात याद रह जाए. तो मुअज्जम, Azam, and Kambaksh, three sons of Aurangzeb, fought a war of succession. Muazzam emerged victorious with the help of not with the help of some nobles and courtiers, and he assumed the royal authority under the title of Bahadur Shah first, and he ruled the Mughal Empire from 1707 till 1712. Next 5 or 6 years. And in 1712, when Bahadur Shah first died, he passed away. He was survived by 4 sons. Jahadar Shah, Jahan Shah, Ajimush Shan, Rafuz Shan. And again they fought a war of succession. याद नहीं करना है, आपको सिर्फ क्या याद रखना है? एक लाइन याद रखना है, पॉलिटिकल फ्रेगमेंटेशन, डिक्लाइन ऑफ द मुगल एम्पायर. जहांदार शाह, जहान शाह, अजीमुश शान, रफ्यूज शान, they fought a war of succession, and in that war of succession, Jahandar Shah emerged victorious. Jahandar Shah emerged victorious, not on his own, not because of his own capacity, but with the help of a noble or a courtier, Darbari, present at his court, named Zulfikar Khan. Zulfikar. So with the help of Zulfikar, Jahandar Shah became the emperor. So Jahandar Shah became the emperor not because of his own capacity, but because of Zulfikar Khan. And Zulfikar was an Iranian courtier, Iranian, who came from Iran, Iranian, and he had helped Jahandar Shah to be the Sultan, to be the emperor. And when Jahandar Shah became the emperor, in return for his services, in a token of gratitude, Zulfikar Khan was appointed Wazir or Finance Minister of Jahandar Shah, the Mughal emperor. But within a short span of 1 year, Jahandar Shah was killed by his nephew Farrukhsir. 1713. Jahandar Shah was killed by his nephew Farrukhsir, who became the emperor. So Farrukhsir was the next Mughal emperor while killing his uncle Jahandar Shah. But Farrukhsir was not a powerful man, not a man of caliber. Farrukhsir killed Jahandar Shah with the help of other nobles called Sayyid brothers. Sayyid brothers from Meerut. Sayyid brothers from western UP, from Meerut. Jahandar Shah was killed by the Sayyid brothers, who extended their support to Farrukhsir. So Sayyid brothers named Abdullah Khan, elder brother Abdullah Khan, and younger brother Hussain Ali extended their support to Farrukhsir, who became the Mughal emperor. And in return for their services, Farrukhsir appointed elder brother Abdullah Khan as the Wazir or finance minister, and younger brother Hussain Ali his commander of the army. Finance minister and commander of the army, or Senapati. And Farrukhsir continued his rule. But it became difficult for Farrukhsir to avoid day-to-day interferences of Sayyid brothers, because Sayyid brothers wanted a puppet, and Farrukhsir was not ready to behave like a puppet. So eventually in 1719, Sayyid brothers killed the Mughal emperor Farrukhsir. This had happened for the first time, that a Mughal emperor was killed by the nobles or courtiers. So Abdullah Khan, the Wazir or finance minister, and Hussain Ali, commander of the army, Senapati, they killed Farrukhsir, the Mughal emperor, and raised another Mughal prince to the throne named Rafiu Darzat, who died himself. And when Rafiu Darzat became the Mughal emperor, he couldn't survive for more than 6 months and died due to consumption of excess of alcohol. Beuda emperor, who died of consuming excess of alcohol. 1719, after 6 or 7 months of his rule. Rafiu Darzat. Then when Rafiu Darzat passed away or died due to consumption of alcohol, then Sayyid brothers raised another Mughal prince to the throne named Rafiu Daula, Rafiu Darzat, Rafiu Daula, and Rafiu Daula also died due to consumption of excess of alcohol. क्या मुसीबत, क्या घटिया पॉलिटिकल सिचुएशन नॉर्थ इंडिया का 18th century के beginning years में. So Rafiu Darzat passed away, Rafiu Daula passed away, and then Muhammad Shah was raised to the throne. So while listening to all these stories, you have concluded that the Mughal Empire was in a very bad situation, very bad political condition, and the Mughal emperors became very weak enough to be overthrown by the nobles and courtiers, ministers. So Mughal Empire was in a state of decline. Mughal Empire was in a state of decline. So breakup of the Mughal state was followed by the establishment of large number of autonomous or semi-independent and independent states, or smaller units, smaller units. These were of three distinct types. Three distinct types. First one, semi-independent or autonomous states founded by the semi-independent or autonomous states founded by the Mughal nobles and courtiers. Semi-independent or autonomous states founded by the Mughal nobles and courtiers, such as such as Awadh. Semi-independent, it means semi-independent states means these states remained under the control of the Mughal emperor but only in name, attached with the Mughal empire but only in name. नाम का मुगल एम्पायर में जुड़ा हुआ है, किसी काम का नहीं जुड़ा हुआ है, सिर्फ नाम का जुड़ा हुआ है. Like Awadh. So Awadh was a semi-independent or autonomous state under the control of the Mughal Empire. But in actual, Awadh and its Nawabs, rulers, they behaved independently. They were left free to manage their internal affairs completely. Okay, so Awadh was founded by Sadat Khan, who was given the title of Burhanul Mulk. Sadat Khan Burhanul Mulk. Okay, Awadh. And another semi-independent state of Bengal. Bengal was founded by Murshid Quli Khan, another Mughal noble or courtier, Murshid Quli Khan. And Hyderabad, another semi-independent state of Hyderabad, was founded by a noble named Chin Kilich Khan, or he was also known as Nizam ul Mulk. Nizamul Mulk Asaf Jah. Nizamul Mulk Asaf Jah. Okay, so say there is no need to mug up these facts. There is no need to remember these facts because you have to keep in mind only one sentence, that is political fragmentation and declining authority of the Mughal emperors. For that reason, semi-independent states were established like Awadh, Bengal and Hyderabad. Semi-independent states of Awadh, Bengal and Hyderabad. And Awadh, Bengal and Hyderabad kingdoms were the parts of the Mughal Empire but only in name, and their rulers behaved independently. Okay, so first kind of state, one type of state called semi-independent or autonomous states. Semi-independent or autonomous states, first one. Next one, another kind of state, warrior states. Warrior states established by Sikh, Jats and Marathas. Warrior states founded or established by Sikh, Jats and Marathas. Okay. In course of, and when did they established or founded these states? In course of their rebellion, in course of their revolt against the oppressive policies of Aurangzeb Alamgir, the last powerful Mughal emperor. In course of rebellion against the Mughals. In course of rebellion against the Mughals. Okay. So Jat state, Sikh state and Maratha states were founded or established in course of their rebellion against the Mughals. And there were several local kingdoms apart from warrior states. There were local kingdoms as well. So देखिए second category of state, warrior states. First category, semi-independent. Second category, warrior states. Right. Third category of state called local kingdoms or states. Local kingdoms or states, like for example, Rajput states, Mysore and Travancore, etc. Local kingdoms or local states like Rajput states, Mysorean state, Travancore state, and descendants of Rajas of Travancore are in news because of Padmanabh temple of Kerala. Now, management of, as per the order of Honorable Supreme Court of India, I think yesterday, uh, management of Padmanabh temple has been transferred to the family members of Travancore Riyasat, descendants of Travancore, Maharajas of Travancore, that family member, descendants. उनको मंदिर का मैनेजमेंट हैंड ओवर कर दिया गया है एंड इट इज सेड दैट पद्मनाभ टेम्पल इज फुल ऑफ gold, sapphire, ruby and diamond, and its net worth is around 2 lakh crore rupiah, and perhaps more than 2 lakh crore rupiah. And there are 7 chambers of jewelries, 7 chambers of jewelries, and 6 chambers has already been opened up, but 7 chamber is still closed. And we are further waiting for the decision of Supreme Court of India for that 7th vault or 7th chamber, which is said to be full of diamond, ruby, sapphire jewelry. Okay, so local kingdoms or states like Rajput states, Mysore states and Travancore state. So one thing is very much evident, that 18th century India had witnessed a weak, very weak political condition. Very weak political condition. So it means all these things indicates that, right, further, the Mughals centralized authority declined as a process in which as a process in which local elites who under the patronage of declined as a process in which local elites who under the patronage of the Mughals started gaining more power, more symbols and substance of independence or substance of sovereignty. So decline of the central authority means local magnates, local elites, they were going to concentrate more powers within their own hands. So that's why nobles and courtiers grew stronger. Okay, so decline of the central authority. Decline of the central authority, which means directly means local nobles started gaining in more power and strength. More power and strength. Decline of the central authority or the Mughal central authority or the Mughals. Okay, now. So nobles started gaining in more power and strength, and decline of the central authority caused territorial territorial fragmentation. Territorial fragmentation, and territorial fragmentation means emergence of local kingdoms and autonomous and independent states. Okay, and these are the studies of historians like Muzaffar Alam and Andre Wink. While studying topics of history optional, sometimes you have to mention names of some researchers or historians like Muzaffar Alam and Andre Wink. But while writing answers for general studies, you are not supposed to mention names of researchers or historians. In GS paper, there is no need to mention names, but it is advised to mention names of historians while writing answers of history optional questions. Okay. So Muzaffar Alam and Andre Wink in their studies had founded or established that decline of the Mughal authority caused territorial fragmentation, and territorial fragmentation means emergence of local kingdoms and autonomous or independent states, and three types of states emerged once the Mughal Empire started declining, like semi-independent or autonomous states founded by the Mughal nobles and courtiers, like Awadh founded by Sadat Khan Burhanul Mulk, Bengal was founded by Murshid Quli Khan, Hyderabad by Chin Kalish Khan or Nizamul Mulk Asaf Jah, and all of them they were the Mughal nobles, Mughal courtiers. Then there were warrior states founded by Sikh, Jats and Marathas in course of their rebellion against the Mughals, and there were local kingdoms located outside the boundaries of the Mughal Empire. Local kingdoms, local states located outside the boundaries of the Mughal Empire, like Rajput states, Masurian states and Travancore. Okay. Right. Next paragraph. Professor J. N. Sarkar and other nationalist historians, Professor Jadu Nath Sarkar, हिस्ट्री ऑफ औरंगजेब, इन्होंने हिस्ट्री ऑफ औरंगजेब लिखा है. प्रोफेसर जे एन सरकार एंड अदर नेशनलिस्ट हिस्टोरियंस, they have stated they have stated that Maratha, Maratha, Jat and Sikh, Marathas, Jats and Sikh resistance, Sikh resistance was evidence of a strong Hindu opposition, strong Hindu opposition against Aurangzeb's religious bigotry, religious orthodoxy and blindness. So, and this was the reason for the collapse of the Mughal Empire, though there were several other reasons as well. But Professor Jain Sarkar and other nationalist historians had stated that Marathas, Jats and Sikh resistance was evidence of a strong Hindu opposition against Aurangzeb's religious bigotry, religious orthodoxy, religious blindness, and they were the reason for ultimate collapse. They were the reason for ultimate collapse, and the Marathas should have been Marathas should have been the legitimate successor of the Mughals. Legitimate successors of the Mughals. Okay, so Professor Jain Sarkar and other nationalist historians have stated that Marathas, Jats, and Sikh had revolted against the Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb, and they caused downfall of the Mughal Empire, and that Marathas should have been the legitimate successor of the Mughals. It means, or in other words, they thought that Marathas should have been they should have been the legitimate successor, or the Marathas they were expected to create, or they were expected to build a strong empire on the ruins of the Mughal Empire. तो इन्होंने कहा कि मराठों का एम्पायर बनना चाहिए था, ब्रिटिशर्स का एम्पायर नहीं बनना चाहिए था. लेकिन हम जानते हैं, वी आर वेरी वेल अवेयर ऑफ द फैक्ट दैट मुगल्स वर रिप्लेस्ड बाय द ब्रिटिशर्स. मुगल एम्पायर वाज रिप्लेस्ड बाय द ब्रिटिश एम्पायर इन इंडिया. But Professor J.N. Sarkar, he thought that Marathas should have been the legitimate successor. Marathas should have been the legitimate successor of the Mughals. So, इन्होंने ये बताया, जैन सरकार, उनका पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू ये है, क्या ना, कि उन्हें मराठों को अपना एम्पायर बनाना चाहिए था. मुगलों के खंडहर पे मराठों को अपना एम्पायर बनाना चाहिए था. बना नहीं. They tried their best, but they failed to do so. While on the other hand, the British East India Company, and the company came to India merely as a trading company, but company got a golden opportunity to create or to establish its own empire on the ruins of the Mughal Empire. मुगलों के खंडहर पर किसका एम्पायर बना? मुगलों के खंडहर पे ब्रिटिश इंडिया में अंग्रेजों का एम्पायर बना. मराठों का एम्पायर नहीं बन पाया. Marathas were eliminated by the Britishers. Okay, so but Jain Sarkar, another nationalist, they thought that Marathas should have been the legitimate successor, not the Britishers. But that is not the case. Mughal Empire was replaced by the British Empire. And right further, the British historians have stated that East India Company, EICO, or East India Company, with its rule of law, East India Company with its rule of law, governance model, and the gift of civilization. The British historians have stated that the British East India Company, with its concept of rule of law, its better governance model, and the gift of civilization, were the legitimate successor to the Mughals. Okay. तो सबके अपने अपने थॉट्स हैं. जैन सरकार वगैरह सोच रहे हैं कि मुगलों के खंडहर पे मराठों का इमारत बनना चाहिए था, और ईस्ट ब्रिटिश हिस्टोरियंस ने कहा कि अंग्रेजों की इमारत बननी चाहिए थी मुगलों के खंडर में, जो कि बनी भी, जो कि बन भी गई। ठीक है। While there is another group of historians called Aligarh School of Marxist historians. Marxist historians means those historians who are interested in interpretation of history from economic perspective. आर्थिक कारण, economic reasons for the downfall of the Mughal Empire. So Aligarh school of Marxist historians are more interested in findings that the Mughal Empire declined not because of Maratha resistance, Sikh resistance, but the Mughal Empire declined because of economic reasons, economic factors. आर्थिक कारण, ठीक है। तो अलीगढ़ स्कूल ऑफ मार्क्सिस्ट हिस्टोरियंस। Set next para. देखिए, जीएस मॉडर्न इंडिया और ऑप्शनल मॉडर्न इंडिया के एनालिसिस में थोड़ा फर्क है। ये जीएस से थोड़ा ज्यादा इन डेप्थ एनालिसिस है, एंड वी आर आल्सो टेकिंग रेफरेंसेस ऑफ historians and theories put forwarded by the historians as well. Okay, so Aligarh School of Marxist historians means economic interpretation of downfall of the Mughal Empire. Aligarh School of Marxist historians, those historians who focused more on economic interpretation of downfall of the Mughal Empire. So what they said, historians such as Professor Irfan Habib, a very renowned professor from Aligarh School of Marxist historians, Professor Irfan Habib. He said that the rotational allotment of land, to landlords, to mansabdars or nobles holding ranks, rotational allotment of land to mansabdars or nobles holding ranks led to peasantry, led to increasing, like this, led to increasing pressure on the peasantry for extraction of revenue. Okay, so this was the reason for the downfall of the Mughal Empire, because revenue collectors, it means revenue collectors started collecting excess of revenue or lagan. Revenue, mansabdars or rank holders, officials, big officials of the state, when they were asked to collect lagan revenue or revenue collectors. So then revenue collectors started collecting excess of revenue or lagan, and the Mughal peasantry was forced to pay more than 50 or 60% of their total production, more than 50 or 60% of total production। यानी कि लगान बहुत ज्यादा है और लगान की बहुत बेतहाशा वसूली हो रही थी। रेवेन्यू कलेक्टर्स, mansabdars or officials of the state, they started collecting more than required more than the required rate of lagan। For example, if the state fixed 50% of total revenue, 50% of total production as revenue, and states officials started collecting more than 60% or 70%, लगान की ताबड़तोड़ वसूली और लगान की बहुत ज्यादा वसूली से मुगल किसानों की कमर टूट गई। And when the Mughal peasantry class was left with no choice, they raised the banner of revolt, they raised the standard of revolt, and the Mughal empire started declining because of revolts and rebellions of the Mughal peasantry class। Economic interpretation of downfall of the Mughal empire। तो इन्होंने लगान बंदोबस्त के बारे में, इरफान हबीब वगैरह ने लगान बंदोबस्त के बारे में बोला कि रेवेन्यू ऑफिशियल्स, रेवेन्यू कलेक्टर्स बहुत ज्यादा लगान वसूली करने लगे थे, किसानों का खून चूसने लगे थे, जिसकी वजह से किसानों ने विद्रोह कर दिया, रिवोल्ट कर दिया। तो द मुगल peasantry had revolted because of collection or extraction of excess of revenue, and sometimes revenue collection even crossed more than 60 or 65% of total agricultural production, total agrarian production। So Aligarh School of Marxist historians, mainly Professor Irfan Habib, they emphasize more on economic interpretation, Lagan Bandobast, as a main reason for the downfall of the Mughal Empire। Okay, downfall of the Mughal Empire। So 18th century India, political, what was the political condition of 18th century India? 18th century India was politically was not in a good position, not in a good position। 18th century India was not in a good position, and it was politically fragmented and had witnessed the downfall of the Mughal Empire। Downfall of the Mughal Empire, and there were several reasons for the downfall of the Mughal Empire। We will be talking about the reasons for downfall of our Mughal Empire in our subsequent lectures। We'll talking about history of medieval India, political history of the medieval India। ठीक है ना? तो ये तो पॉलिटिकल कंडीशन हुआ, पॉलिटिकल कंडीशन ऑफ इंडिया इन 18th century। So politically, India was not in a good condition। India was not in a good condition. It was in a state of political fragmentation, and several smaller states were present there instead of one powerful state। But if we talk about economic condition of India in the first half of 18th century. So economically, India was still in a strong position, though not politically, but economically, India was in a good position. India was in a very strong position। So right next one, Indian economy. Next heading, Indian economy from 1700 till 1750s. Indian economy. So right now we were talking about political condition of India in the first half of 18th century, and now we are going to talk about Indian economy in the first half of 18th century, mainly from 1700 till 1750s. Okay. So right, first point, Indian economy, condition of Indian economy. Okay. GDP, gross domestic production, GDP of India in 1700, GDP of India in 1700 amounted to nearly 24 point, enormously high, 24.5% of the world's GDP. Unbelievable, enormously high. Gross domestic production of India in the first half of 18th century, it amounted fourth or 24.5% of world's GDP at that time. And Indian agriculture and crafts. Indian agriculture and crafts had accounted for had accounted for a significant portion of the world's total production, accounted for a significant portion of the world's total production. And you people would be surprised to know that at that time, gross domestic production of India, GDP of India was 8.5 times greater than GDP of Great Britain. So economy of India was in such a strong position that Indian economy was 8.5 times larger than the economy of Great Britain. And such a country, such a powerful country like India became a colony of a British East India Company. एक मामूली सी कंपनी ने इंडिया को गुलाम बना लिया, इतना पावरफुल, इकोनॉमिकली पावरफुल स्टेट के बावजूद. ये पढ़ेंगे हम लोग यूनिट 1, द ब्रिटिश कॉन्क्वेस्ट ऑफ बंगाल एंड इंडिया. Okay. So Indian agriculture and crafts had accounted for a significant portion of the world's total production. And India's GDP was nearly 8.5 times that of Great Britain. 8.5 times. Unbelievably high. 8.5 times. And India's GDP in 1700 amounted to around 24.5% of total GDP of the world, which clearly states that Indian economy was in such a strong position that balance of trade and balance of payments were almost completely inclined in favor of India, and Indian goods were in great demand. Indian goods were in great demand throughout the world market, in particular the European markets. So for that reason, the European companies came to India. European traders came to India. Why the British East India Company came to India? Why the Dutch? Why the Portugal? Why the French came to India? They came to India to purchase Indian handicraft goods and spices, cotton cloths, silk cloths, steel swords, guns. So the Europeans came to India to purchase Indian handicraft goods. So when they came to India, they purchased our goods and they took our goods to the European market. They sold out there and they made huge profit. Huge profit. So trade with India was such a profitable, such a lucrative trade that the Europeans came to India. In those days, India had a pull factor. India had a pull factor and attracted hundreds of the European traders and several European companies who came to India to purchase our goods and commodities. Okay. And point number 1, and right, next one, capital B. India was fairly rich in iron. Even today, India is rich in iron, and Indian iron ore is one of the best quality iron ore. So India is the leading producer of iron and steel. Sometimes China, sometimes India. These two countries are leading producer of iron. So India was fairly rich in iron. It was soft. Indian iron, soft and easily malleable. Easily malleable. Malleability. पीट पीट करके sheet बनाना, पतला करना. So India was fairly rich in iron. Indian iron was soft and easily malleable and easily converted into steel. Easily malleable and easily converted into steel. Okay. And Indian steel swords, Indian steel swords, very decorative steel swords called damascene work. Indian steel swords were famous worldwide for their strength and decoration. Okay, so capital B, steel, Indian steel, iron and steel. So Indian iron and steel industry was also in a proliferating condition. And not to forget about cotton and silk textile industry of India. And Indian cotton and silk cloths were famous worldwide and were in great demand, in particular into the European markets. So the Europeans came to India, they purchased our cotton and silk cloths. They took to the European and other markets, they sold out there and they made huge profits. Okay, so Indian weavers, they produced varieties of cloths. Varieties of cloths. Indian weavers were so expert, great experts to produce varieties of cloths. So India's cotton textile industry India's cotton textile industry produced varieties of cotton and silk cloths and was unique, and this industry was unique in the world, unique in the world for its sheer size and the variety of its products. Variety of its products. For example, Dhaka, now in Bangladesh. So Dhaka was famous for a very fine quality of cloth called muslin, malmal, malmal का कुर्ता, मलमल का कपड़ा, ठीक है ना? मलमल और in bracket muslin of Dhaka, muslin of Dhaka, then calico, also known as BAFTA, calico or BAFTA, and cheat, variety of a cloth, cheat of North India and silk and patola of Gujarat, silk and patola of Gujarat, and even gold brocade of Gujarat as well, and hand printed cheat of Masulipatanam, hand printed cheat of Masulipatanam. So varieties of cloths, cotton as well as silk cloths were produced by the Indian weavers and Indian textile industry. And Indian cotton and silk cloths were in great demand because Indian artisans, Indian handicraftsmen and weaver, they produced very fine quality of cloths, very soft, very transparent, very fine. And apart from cotton and silk industry, India, and another expanding sector in India in the 18th century was firearms, guns, and Indian handicraftsmen, they produced varieties of guns, varieties of guns. So right, fourth point, another expanding sector was firearms manufacture, firearms manufacture, and around 1700, around 1700, India's position, India's position as a major industrial exporter, major industrial exporter in world trade was widely acknowledged by the European observers, was widely acknowledged by the European observers. So, in firearms manufacture, so India was a leading producer and exporter of varieties of guns. And guns here means heavy guns like artillery, top, topkhana, artillery. And not only these production sectors, apart from production sector, India had uh, a large merchant class, ready-made merchant class because of caste system, ready-made merchant class, within which the Banya caste enjoyed a dominant position. So we had a ready-made caste of Banya, and they had helped expansion of Indian economy during first half of 18th century, or during the Mughal Empire and first half of 18th century. Next one, trade and credit. Trade and credit. So India had a large merchant class within which they Banya caste merchants, Banya, Banya caste. So even to today, if would observe Banya castes, they are still playing dominant role, very good role, like Marwadi Banya, Sindhi, Marwadi. No? So and Agrawals, Singhanias. So within which the Banya caste enjoyed a dominant position. Dominant position, although they had regional variations, although they had regional variations such as Khatris in Punjab, Khatri Banya caste in Punjab, Khatris in Punjab, Muslim Bohras in Gujarat, Muslim Bohra traders, very progressive traders, Gujarat and some parts of Maharashtra as well. So Muslim Bohras in Gujarat, then Komatis in Andhra, and Chettiars in Tamil Nadu. So around 1700s, 1750, Indian economy was really in a very strong position, though not politically, but economically still in very strong position. And if you would observe economic status of Great Britain against India, it was such a small economy, and Indian economy was around 8.5 times greater than economy of Great Britain. And East India Company was worth nothing here in India. ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी की औकात नहीं थी हमारे सामने. And East India Company slowly and gradually became the honor of the Indians, honor of the realm, and established its own empire on the ruins of the Mughal Empire. Okay, so Chettiars in Tamil Nadu. Right further. The famous merchant Veer Ji Vohra of Surat. Surat had an estate of total had an estate of 80 lakh rupiah silver coins in those days, 80 lakh. And in early 1700s, another trader named Mullah Abdul Ghaffur had 20 large ships, and drove a trade equal to the British East India Company. Drove a trade equal to the British East India Company. So, total turnover of the British East India Company, total trade of the British East India Company was not more than a prominent trader of Surat named Mullah Abdul Ghaffur. And this was the condition of the British East India Company, Auqat of the British East India Company, before the economy of mighty economy of India. But slowly and gradually, India became a colony of the British East India Company, and we have to discuss the history or story of uh, India that became a colony of the Britishers. इसमें देखिए यूनिट 1 यही है कि एक मामूली सी कंपनी ने कैसे इंडिया को गुलाम बनाया. European penetration into India and beginning of the European commerce, the British conquest of Bengal and rest of India. कैसे पॉसिबल हुआ कि एक मामूली सी कंपनी ने हमें गुलाम बना लिया. The British conquest of Bengal and rest of India, Battle of Plassey, Battle of Buxar, British ascendancy in Carnatic, Anglo-Mysore War, Anglo-Maratha Wars, Anglo-Sikh Wars. यूनिट 1 में हमें यही पढ़ना होगा. Okay, so this is all about economic and political condition of India in the 18th century. आज के लिए इतना रहने देते हैं. ठीक है, एक दो दिन अभी हम लोग थोड़ा थोड़ा करके चल रहे हैं, 1.5 घंटे 2 घंटे पढ़ रहे हैं. एक दो दिन के बाद फिर हम लोग थोड़ा स्पीड ज्यादा बढ़ा लेंगे अपनी. ठीक है ना, टाइमिंग भी बढ़ा लेंगे. ओके, सो आई थिंक सफिशिएंट फॉर टुडे. थैंक यू सो मच. थैंक्स अ लॉट. चलिए नेक्स्ट क्लास में मिलते हैं, फिर कंटिन्यू करेंगे, इसी टॉपिक को आगे बढ़ाएंगे. थैंक यू.